We are back on Morning Line. It's our final segment this morning with MTSU Political Science Professor John Weil, also Dean of the Honors College there. Good to have you on, sir.
Good to be here.
Lines open, 737-7587. If you'd like to touch bases with us, comment on what we've been discussing with regard to the current administration, Donald Trump, how things are playing out right now. So just your observations then with what's happening in D.C., and then you look at what's happening here in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee still, I think, is very solidly, obviously, Republican. We've got a governor's race that's going to be coming up.
We do, and it's going to be consequential because the pattern in Tennessee is the races that are really contested or where you don't have a sitting governor, because almost every sitting governor, whether they're Democrat or Republican, gets reelected.
You're right, as long as I've been here.
So so this year you're going to have a strong contest on both sides. And by the way, MTSU is hoping to do another forum. You know, you had one of the 3 or 4 statewide debates last year. And we're going to do one this year after the primaries have taken place. So we'll probably have, you know, Democrat, Republican, and possibly an independent or two, depending on you know how strong their strength would be.
And that field is still shaping up on both sides. Some of the names that just pop into mind on the Democratic side: former Nashville Mayor Carl Dean. And you know, as a Democrat, getting into it, but you know, known here. I always have a tough time figuring out how well known is someone like Carl Dean around the rest of the state, because it's a statewide race. So he's obviously known here, and I think he was pretty much respected and liked here in the Nashville market. So he would do well here. But what
everybody in Tennessee, I mean, unless you're a senator or have already been a governor, you're going to have, you know, a Memphis following, an Knoxville following, or a Middle Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee is as large as any, you know.
So that gives you that leg up.
Nashville, I think, is now the most populous city in the state, so we got as good a chance of getting one of our people as anyone.
Yeah, good place to start. And then you know there was a straw poll this past weekend, Williamson County, for some of the Republicans. Bill Lee ended up winning it. May Beavers finished second. We should say, I think the straw poll and the meeting was held in the neighborhood where Bill Lee lives, or near there. So
well,
all these things are skewed.
I'm not sure if Harwell had yet announced.
And she had not announced. And Beth Harwell, of course, Speaker of the House now, is in the race. And people are waiting to see.
Good legislative experience there for sure.
So I mean that race. I mean, but you think that there is the possibility for the Democrat to have a real shot there, being Carl Dean, if he's the one that at least gets
I do. I mean, I think he has a has a good shot. Nothing is, I mean, money, name recognition, party support. They're going to be, the 3 major factors.
Okay. But Tennessee's still, pretty strongly Republican, obviously.
Right. I think Republicans have an advantage, but again, the presidency is in such flux and turmoil at the moment that could ultimately, this would be a little bit, it'd be happening in the same year as the midterm congressional elections. Right now, Republicans really dominate at the gubernatorial level, but that could slip. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting, the midterm, just to see. Well, I'm just wondering, when do you think things may settle down, or will they? Remember, during the first 100 days of the president's administration, a lot of craziness happening. But, you give everyone some slack for that. He's been there now 6 months or so, and it's still one thing after another that sometimes gets in the way of him maybe being able to pursue some of the agenda he really wants to when he's constantly having to deal with these Russia issues.
My biggest concern is not so much that a lot seems to be happening as I'm not sure that Trump is always learning the lessons that he needs along the way. Again, you expect a neophyte to, I mean, this is the first elected political office he's ever had.
Yeah, so think about that. Not even student council, I imagine, right?
Well, that I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, it is. So the learning curve. So who can talk to him? Who does he listen to?
Well, it seems like mostly his family.
Yeah. Well, I know. I think I read some reports where Ivanka actually had some differences of opinion with him on certain things.
She did, although she ended up losing, I think.
Yeah, voicing it, but he went the other direction, but he would listen to her.
Right.
I mean, of his kids, she's the one I respect the most. I don't know. I mean,
strong professional woman. I think, I
mean, I don't know who among them he pays more attention to or not, but
we were talking about Corker, where Corker probably wanted to be was Secretary of State. And presumably if he, although there is a certain advantage, I'm going to say being on the outside, he's on the outside and not being part of the administration, but still being in the Senate. you can give advice, and if it isn't heeded, you can still give advice again. Whereas if you're, if you're the Secretary of State and you're turned down on the advice, it might make it sort of undercut you next time you want to do it.
Right. Right.
So I think it's important to have people like Corker. Alexander is an old hand in Washington. I mean, certainly anybody knows the system. He would be a good person for advice. But remember how many of his fellows Trump alienated during the campaign. You're not going to go to Cruz. Rubio, I mean, might give you some advice, but the campaign
Little Marco,
yes,
I mean, I just think about some of those, and whatever happened.
Well, and McCain, I mean, who can slam somebody who's been in a prison camp and make it as though he's done something wrong by getting shot down? I mean, go figure.
That's how I wonder. Like that, John McCain, when that was said back during the campaign, and
it was outrageous.
And he's been one of his more vocal critics at times. Right. Certainly, McCain.
Lindsey Graham is my favorite in terms of he always just sort of tells it as he sees it.
He does. All right, let's go to Diane. Hi, Diane.
Hello.
Hey, go ahead.
I have been listening to the program.
Yeah.
I have watched a lot of the interviews they've conducted with Trump and some of his cabinet members, and I think that our president may be a little has a dementia, really. I really think that there is some medical issue wrong with him. And what do you all
people have theorized. I mean, Donald Trump is 70. Is he 72? He's older.
I think he's 70.
70. I mean, he's older. He's one of the older presidents, certainly. But someone was saying that they try. It's unfair sometimes. You're under such a spotlight. But he got off a plane at one point. There was a report, and he kind of wandered off the wrong way. Like he was.
I do that all the time.
As much as he travels and goes, I think that's going to happen to anyone, doesn't it? I don't really hold him against that. But whenever you see these presidential candidates that get older, dating back to Ronald Reagan, of course, and we know late in his second term, he suffered from some dementia. I mean, it just happens, and you watch this. The thing is, the system's so big, there's so many people around, the government keeps running. You just worry about someone who maybe is not as in touch doing something that they shouldn't, and his word goes, right? But
yeah, I mean,
most reports are he's in good health.
Of course, I mean there is an amendment if there's an actual physical or mental disability, but it would have to be seen by members of his own cabinet.
Yeah, and they would be concerned. I hear what you're saying, and that's something people will observe as they go along, but I don't see any indication of that yet at this point.
It doesn't actually seem to be very different from behavior that he's been exhibiting for the past 30 or 40 years.
Right. I suppose.
So maybe it was early onset.
Maybe, yeah. I think he's fine right now, but at his age, I think that's something everyone will be paying a closer attention to. Is this still a topic of conversation among your students in your classes? Will it be?
Oh, yeah.
Always. You guys bring it up, and I'm just wondering, the young today, I mean, they enjoy talking about this. I just sometimes wonder how engaged they are in politics. I mean, I know there's many young Republicans, there's young Democrats. How do they get along? Are they engaged and voting?
I guess my only concern about my students is sometimes the things they post on Facebook, it's like, do you want somebody quoting that 20 years from now? But they have a lot of them have the passion, they have the energy, they have the enthusiasm. We got a lot of kids that are doing internships, both at the state level and at the national level.
Volunteering, campaigning, things like that as well.
Yes, indeed.
Professor, we're lucky to have you as a professor. Thank you for coming on. We're lucky to have you on this morning. Listen, we'll see you again as we always do. It's always so kind of you to make the drive here from Murfreesboro. I enjoy talking with you. Thanks again. Listen, we'll take a break. I'll be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this.